All right, everybody. The clock tells me that we are live. So I'm going to do my normal bit. I'm going to go check and make sure that we are live on all of the platforms that we're supposed to be live on. And of course, make sure I'm muted on all of those so I'm not hearing myself in my ears. Okay, YouTube is a go. Let's see, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a go, but of course I was not muted, so fix that. And we are live on Facebook, so the trifecta. So let's go ahead and do comments. So, hey, Facebook. And let's see, we do have 2 people watching. That's great. So we got Facebook, we got LinkedIn, and you guys know I just do this to make sure that, of course I can't type, to make sure that I can see your comments when you comment. So if you're here, go ahead and comment. Let me know you're here. That would be great. And last but not least, YouTube. All right, so all the comments are showing up. So if you guys have something to say it in the comments. We got, wow. Well, I think I started a little bit late, so maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less than 3 minutes. I don't know. But anyway, we have a great speaker tonight. Ken is just one of those people who kind of has his fingers on the pulse of the MSP channel and really has something to say, and this is something that's important to me, is the selling process for MSPs, for vendors, and so this was a conversation that I'm really looking forward to, and I hope you are too. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. By the way, if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. I need more YouTube subscribers, guys, you know. And then, of course, if you are watching us not on Facebook, go ahead and join the Facebook group. The Facebook group is really where we have more of the in-depth conversations, and we share a little bit more, a little more detail, and have those conversations about the business side of running an MSP. So hop on over there. And of course, if Facebook's not your thing, most of that is duplicated on the LinkedIn page as well. So we have a company LinkedIn page for all things MSP, and most of the content is duplicated over there. And of course, we are live streaming tonight on all 3 platforms, courtesy of Restream. And if you guys are interested in how I do these, you know, what software I use, what services I use, all those different things, reach out, you know, because I know that video is one of those things that a lot of people are trying to get into. And live streaming in particular is something that's a little bit different. And I think I've found a pretty good system, and it's worked. I think I've only had one live stream where LinkedIn, for some reason, the live stream didn't start. And it ends up that was my fault because it wanted me to re-verify my LinkedIn credentials in Restream. And for some reason, it didn't do that when I created the stream or scheduled the stream. So there's some idiosyncrasies here, and always, looking to help the community. That's what we do this for. So if you need help with video or with live stream, make sure you reach out. We are counting down. We still have 2 people watching. Come on, guys. We need more. I know that Ken promoted this really well today. We were kind of late to the party getting it, scheduled on Monday, but we do what we can here. The live stream is the casual part. If you want something more formal, check out the podcast. And if you didn't know we have a podcast, we have a podcast. You can listen to it on all the podcatchers, and you can watch it on the YouTube channel as well. So another good reason to go check out the YouTube channel and subscribe so that you get notified when we post those podcasts as well. All right, let's do this thing. All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of All Things MSP Live, the live show where we just talk about anything to do with MSPs. This is a casual show. If you're joining us on one of the three platforms that we are streaming on, please go ahead and comment. Let us know that you are here. And of course, if you have questions during the live stream, these are supposed to be educational. They're going to be fun. I guarantee that. But they're supposed to be educational as well, because this is a community where we all get together and help each other out to run our MSPs, or those of us who have run MSPs like me and my guest tonight, Ken. These are things that we just enjoy this space. If we didn't have these jobs, we would still be doing this, right? And so with that, let me go ahead and switch screens here. Ken, how you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic, Eric. I get to spend some time tonight with you and chat about some of our favorite stuff, right? Community, which is in case you can't tell, I've added it to every title since I moved over to this side of the fence because of exactly what you said. Love being a part of the community. I think I still consider myself an MSP as you do, and now my job has been to make MSPs lives easier and try to help them in any way I can. And that's whether it's with Taylor Business Group, who I'm with now as the VP of Communities and Ecosystems, or whether I'm not. It has nothing to do with the actual company itself, although Taylor Business Group helps MSPs in so many ways. I'm also here to help in any way I can because I really do believe in rising tides raise all ships. And I think that's what, you amongst others in the industry do for each other.
Yeah, there is quite a few people in this industry who, regardless of which side of the fence they sit on at any given time, because it can go back and forth, contribute to the community as a whole. And that's one of the things that drives me to do this, is because that's the way this community behaves in general. I mean, we have our outliers. We all, we know them. But, for the most part, everybody here is for everybody's benefit. There's nobody who really wishes ill or is just a knockdown, drag out competitor of somebody else. We just don't treat each other that way, and it's great.
I completely agree.
We haven't seen each other since Exchange, and that just feels weird to me.
It definitely does, and we both slowed down a little bit. I haven't, obviously you've slowed down a little bit more in some places, and I'm doing more of I'm doing those big events, and I'm still taking on some little events. In fact, I did something completely different last week, Eric. I decided to just go to a city, no event, no reason, just pick a city, go to that city, and let people know I'm there, and just be helpful and connect with people. And I'll tell you, it was really cool to not have to worry about a booth, to not worry about all the crazy things that go along with an event. Don't get me wrong, I love a good event. But I'm just saying that for me, I just popped up. And I had so many great conversations with, people I worked with at PAX 8, a lot of the MSPs I interacted with, had some great conversations about Taylor Business Group, and just went to dinner with a friend and their family and met their daughters and hung out. And that's just all part of community, because that community piece isn't just about our little channel that we talk about, right? Which is, we'll talk a little bit more about how I feel like the ecosystem thing that Jay Bain talks about is so real. And we're still all talking about our compressed little world of channel. But when I talk about community is not just about us or our customers or our partners or whatever you want to, each other. Community is also the communities that they all serve. It expands beyond that. And so sometimes I think we get lost in that word and think community is just about having customers, but it's not. And let's not forget, when I learned this when I went to PAX 8, community isn't about belonging to something. Community is about belonging to something that makes belonging matter. And that's really something deep. Eric Bowles helped me coin that. I was talking to Eric one time. We were trying to think about, and that's really so true. It hits so close to home. on so many levels, right? Because a lot of companies, MSPs, vendors, whoever, I'm not going to specifically point out, love to say, "Oh, community. Yeah, those are our customers." Wrong. Wrong. Those are your customers. They're only a community when they feel like belonging makes a difference. I'll give an example. Like the PAX8 crew, the customers at PAX8. Those people became stark raving fans of PAX8, right? And it was all through community. It was all through that hey, we care about you mentality, and there was giving back. There was no false expectations. It was, hey, we're going to help you. We're not the best. We know we're not perfect, but we make mistakes. We want to make sure we fix them fast. Type of mentality. That built this group of people that when something did go wrong, and somebody decided they wanted to turn to social and explode about it, your community had your back.
Yeah.
Right? And that changes the game on so many levels. And that's part of what I talk about when we talk about the selling piece of all this. You don't have to sell as much when your stock raving fan community base is doing that for you.
Right. And to be fair, that takes time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It takes time.
But you can't hire a salesperson or tie a number to it either. And I think that's the mistake. That's part of the whole sales mistake that is being made, in that, there are people out there in this industry that do this very well and build community and show how it's supposed to be done. And it didn't all just start now. Rob Ray is a great example. When he started at Datto, he never made it about Datto. He never made it about him. He made it about the community. And as an MSP who used Datto and also was friends with Rob before that with Level Platforms and all of that, that really resonated. And it made people follow and become the stock raving fans of Datto. That started all of that. And I got to be honest, I thought more people would fall in line with that once you saw that it worked and it was very efficient and you didn't have to go the route of sell, and push. You can do this type of thing and it works way better. But I think we're coming around. The cool thing is there's people like you, I'll say and me, that are out doing this stuff, and the MSPs are starting to pick up the slack, and that's kind of cool. You got folks out there like Henry Tim,
yep,
and Kelsey Blankenship Lackland, and these people are just going out there and being real, being human, making connections, and that's where your community is going to come from. That real. That it's so hard to explain because you don't see people being that real and showing up and saying, hey, look, this is who I am. This is what we do. You want to do, you think you need something, great, but let's talk about the community aspect. How can we help you? What's a way to make you better? And there's just so many people like that. And then you got folks like Matt Lee, who went from the MSP side to the vendor side and just quickly became another advocate for the MSP space in a way that we hadn't seen before, with taking security under his wing and turning security on its ear. And now we have so much more of that going on. So I love to give the shout out to all these people. And there's so many more. I could go down a list. It's just these folks are changing the way it's done and making it all about community. And, that's another piece of it, right? It's not about, hey, Eric, how can I help you because it benefits me? It's about, how can I help you? And it doesn't matter if it benefits me, because I get benefit watching you succeed. And I think
right.
that's something that we need to change, and we have to drive. You know me, I get crazy. I can start going on a tangent on this stuff because I truly believe that will work. We can dump this whole sales is about a number, and I got to call you, Eric, at the end of the month and say, oh my God, my quota, I'm not going to meet it. Can you buy some stuff and use it later type of mentality? It's just the MSPs don't respond to that.
No. And I've talked about this quite a bit over the last several years, that there is a large number of MSPs who do less than, I don't know, let's just say $2 million a year. They purchase more like consumers than they do like businesses. And so you have to have a different relationship with them, and they thrive more on community than on the hard sales tactics. Now, there's also a very profitable piece, in my opinion, at the upper end of the spectrum that do operate like traditional businesses. They understand the motion, and you can approach them that way. It's one of the things that makes this little piece of this industry so
Right.
interesting and so unique. And one of the things when you start looking at the B2C side of things, and the B2C style of relationship, you have to understand that there's an abundance mentality that you have to have with that, which is kind of, it ties into what you're talking about, right? Because there's enough business out there for those size MSPs
Yep.
that if we all help each other, we will all get more customers.
Yeah, and it's funny because what happens here is you say 2 million, and immediately, from a vendor's perspective, it's like, oh, those are the small guys, right? Under 2 million, down to the hundreds of thousands. Which, by the way, those are the ones that can grow the fastest by learning how
Very
to
true.
do things correctly. Because obviously, when you're at 500,000, it's easy to double than when you're at 5 million, right? So you're
Very
doubling
true.
you're doubling your business, and maybe you don't want to do that. But there's this place where we stopped caring for the small guy and or girl, a small company. Let's put it that way. And it's overtaking. What's overtaking this is creating big titles, hiring people out of the machine. Right? They go outside of the MSP space. Microsoft, these bigger companies, bring these people in that either don't know the space, forgotten, or simply don't care. Right? And that's what's happening at the vendor level at a lot of these big companies. And what happens then is these smaller businesses start to lose faith and get angry, and they end up turning to Reddit and social. And that's where you get the people that are so badly scorned that they're angry. They don't know what to do. Now, of course, there's a difference between the person that was so badly scorned and doing it and the people that just do it for a living and, don't actually care about, following a process and getting into the right mode and all of that. We have our special name for those folks. But there are actual companies out there that have just been burned so many times by this process that now keeps getting bigger and churning more and more and spitting out the smaller companies. And I think we need to change that, because I think we've already proven in a lot of different businesses that if you take care of the smaller companies and you help nurture them, they end up growing. And by the way, when you help them grow, they never forget it. They'll never, ever forget it. And that's another piece of growing that stock, that group of stock raving fans that are all about your businesses. So I think if the bigger guys, the bigger vendors, and start thinking about these smaller MSPs as children in a sense, like I think about with when being an MSP and you're trying to bring people in, start teaching kids at a younger age what's the right way to go, how to do it, build the process through high school, coming out of high school, going to college, help the colleges write the curriculum. Then they come out, they've now learned what to do and come out, and they're so much more inclined to be a part of your business and a part of your company because you help them learn from the beginning to that point. It's the same thing with these smaller MSPs, right? Because every MSP almost started out around the same, right? We were technical. We knew how to fix stuff.
Yeah.
We had no clue about the operations, finance, sales, marketing, none of that stuff. So if you help nurture that, and they have to be willing to learn, right? Because that's one of the hardest parts, is getting out of your own way and stepping out of the weeds and following a process and learning how to delegate, and those types of things. So I really do believe if they started having initiatives where you're saying, hey, we're going to take them. We're going to take them all, and we're going to show them how to do it. We're going to educate them. We're going to make them better. They'll become the big companies of later on down the road. And they won't want to go anywhere because your company helped them get there.
Well, and that's so important, especially for vendors in this space, because most of them are SaaS vendors, right? Most of them are a recurring revenue model, because we're not selling equipment anymore, right? And so lifetime value is extremely important.
Yep.
And the way you get extreme lifetime value is by building community and building those raving fans like you're talking about. It's it's almost, more of a membership model
Yeah.
than a traditional vendor, you know, relationship.
Yep, I agree. And it's it's listen, it's a for any MSPs out there watching this, know this. We know it's difficult. I don't think there's not many people that know more than Eric and I how painful it is growing an MSP from a much smaller. We were both there. In my experience, all the MSPs I started working at, the one that I owned, were sub 500,000, and then got to the 7-8 million mark. And through those iterations and years, made so many mistakes, and learned, the hard way that getting that first million was really exciting. But when I was going from 1 million to 3 million, I probably should have paid attention to profitability over the 3 million mark. Right, Eric? And so learning how to understand that piece of it, profitability is way more important than that final number. Um, and you can build up to that final number by being efficient and getting that profitability. So I just want to say, stick with it. Find the right resources. There are people in this business that truly care about your business and really want you to succeed. For the most part, most of the industry wants that. We do believe in that rising tides raise all ships. And I'll say this, I know it's not the end of the of the live stream, but you should definitely reach out to people like Eric and myself, and you'll find that we're very open, and we don't have all the answers. But between us, we know a lot of people, and we can connect you with the right person that may or may not be able to help you with whatever that question is. But don't give up. Don't give
Yeah.
up. This is worth it. There's not many things more satisfying than getting your MSP to that point where you're like, wow, what am I doing next? How am I? Everything's running the way it's supposed to be running. What am I going to add to this, or what am I going to do next? That feeling is really fantastic. Or what I'd really love you to do, if you get to that next level, is who can I help next? Who can I mentor now that I'm in a
Yep.
good spot?
Well, and that's what we're really seeing happen. I mean, it's always been there a little bit, but it's becoming more formalized with people like you mentioned, Henry Tim,
Yep.
and the tech degenerates,
Yep.
right? That whole crew of MSPs is so open about what they're doing and how they're doing it, and willing to help smaller MSPs to get to the point where they're at already. I mean, it's just amazing to see it evolve, because you and I have been in this for a long time. Like,
Just a little. Just a little.
yeah, I won't even throw out a number, but yeah, it's a long time. If you combine our experience, it's yeah. But anyway, you talked. We were talking pre-show earlier about channel and ecosystem,
Yep.
and I think I have a view on this, and I'm going to share, and then I want to hear kind of your take on it. I do think that channel is very narrow, right? It also denotes a relationship that I don't think exists anymore, because channel was really a place for a vendor to sell stuff.
Transact.
And that's not what it is anymore. I think from our earlier conversation, I think you're right. I think the better word for it is ecosystem.
Yep.
It's the community piece plus the ecosystem piece. I think from a relationship point of view, it's community. From a transaction, from a business point of view, it's ecosystem. And I think the reason it's ecosystem now is that it's not so one-sided. And I think
Right.
vendors who treat it one-sided need to kind of take a step back and look at, these MSPs have more power than they used to. And this is coming out in things like CompTIA research and being validated. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We'll just drop the mic. We're out. See you later. It obviously you're right on the money, right? And I believe in that. And, it was Jay McBain and his research that started this thing. And it's still so much in its infancy that people ask, hey, what's an ecosystem? And I'll go, and I'm sure Jay McBain could explain it in about 2 hours. So, if it was easy, we'd be able to do it in a couple of minutes. But my easiest explanation from a standpoint of, the bigger picture is, if we're talking about channel, we're just talking about planet Earth, maybe even smaller, maybe in just the United States. And if we're talking about ecosystem, we're talking about the galaxy. And that's how big this is. Technology touches everything. And I hope Jay confirms this and says I'm at least somewhat close. But I believe that it's an ecosystem because we're not just talking about this one narrow area. We're talking about this big group of everything. And now that technology touches everything, and I know some people have the argument about, is everything a technology company? No, but Tesla is a car company that technology is being used a lot. That technology is a big part of it. Are they a technology company? No. So there's a lot of these other businesses, but are they a part of our ecosystem? Absolutely. And so that's really, trying to get involved with that whole community and ecosystem pieces. The community piece is that touch point, like you said, and the ecosystem is where we do it, how we build communities, how we connect. And it's not transactional like the old channel was, where we just transact. Hey, Eric, here's your part for $25, and here's your receipt, and you're going to get this out of that, and boom, it's over. And that's the other piece that has to shift a little bit more too. Is we know we have events, and some events are really good, and some events are okay. I think the events have to shift to be more educational and have that human touch, because we're pushing people to them, and then they get to the event and they're like, man, I heard 6 things that were really great, and I got back to my office and I couldn't do any of them. Well, how about you go to an event, you learn something, and you have a takeaway, right? And then on top of that, it's the social aspect, because we all know I met you at probably a lobby bar or in a lobby, going between places at an event. And it doesn't mean you have to drink. We're not tying that to just drinking. It's more about when people are, the walls are down and we're sitting and we're a little more social, we have the opportunities to get to know each other better. I see you snicker, and I saw something come up on the screen, but it was a little blurry.
So my good friend Keith Nelson is in the house.
Oh yeah, tell him no Dallas Cowboys remarks. We don't want to hear it.
So Ken is asking, does Ken know me? Obviously you do. I don't. Who doesn't know Keith? Really?
That's right.
And so his next comment is, can Ken educate me? I think Ken can educate everybody. I think we all have something that we can learn from each other. I think Keith has a lot to teach people about how there are different ways to run an IT services business.
Yep.
Keith has a very unique model. It works very, very well. So there would be people who would benefit from Keith's model, right? And of course, Keith says no one listens to him, but they do, because I do, right? I do.
It's not true. They do listen. Whether they like what you're saying, that's a whole other thing.
That's true. That's true.
It's usually because he's talking about the Cowboys, and he still thinks they're America's team. That was the 90s, Keith.
There is that part.
There is that part.
And by the way, if you have a question for Ken or I, please go ahead and throw it into the live chat. We're taking questions. We always, we'd love to share. So that's what we're here for. We've talked about a lot of different things tonight. We've talked about selling. We've talked about ecosystems versus channel. Ken, because you see what MSPs are doing on a day-to-day basis pretty much. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you're seeing the successful MSPs do that's different from what we were doing, say, pre-pandemic?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, first off, pandemic was a horrible thing, so I don't want anybody thinking that I'm saying it was positive. From a standpoint of business, I do believe it was the most positive thing that could ever hit our industry from a standpoint of cloud and security. Those two things got launched into the atmosphere or the stratosphere. They just went crazy. And I don't think we would have seen the adoption and the surge that we saw in that one short period of time over the course of however many years we kept talking about is, when's it going to really catch on? Nobody's listening to me. I'm telling them about remote work and cloud, and they don't want to do it. And then all of a sudden it's have to have it. And it blew up, right? And one of the things I saw during COVID that was really interesting, and it came up on our calls, on the Thursday calls, was someone asked, well, I need to cut back because I'm losing, some of my customers are pulling back a little bit and I need to cut back. And so I think I'm going to cut my marketing. And I was like, whoa, me and along with a bunch of other people, like, you need to double down on your marketing, but do it differently. It should all be education. All you should be putting out there is how to work with teams, how to do remote sessions, what to teach to your customer base, your partner base, whatever you want to call it. Educate. And by the way, not just your customer base, anybody who will listen. Put the education out there and do webinars on how to do these things that nobody knows how to do because they really weren't pushing for it until they had to do it. Now everybody's working from home. They need to know how to use Teams, how to do Zoom. They need all these pieces. Oh, and by the way, how quickly did we have to slap these people to work from home and maybe bypass security just a little bit because we had to get them running first? And all the good companies circled back with a plan and said, hey, by the way, we did this fairly quickly. We secured you, but maybe not to the level that we needed to then. We need to get a roadmap to get these machines all secured.
Yep.
So that was part of the big thing. And then coming out of it, what I'm seeing now, and I'm a big proponent of this, and I think every MSP should do this. If you're getting more mature and you learned ways to make your business better, go to your clients and show them the very same things that you learned to make your business better. It'll separate you from the rest. By going in and showing them, hey, I used EOS and it did this for my business, my process, all the things that does for you. Here's a trick we learned with marketing. Here's a way that we did. It has nothing to do with technology. It separates you from all the other IT companies that are coming in and talking technology. And by the way, you take a customer and show them ways to make their business better, they're never, ever going to leave you. So that's what I'm seeing now be adopted. And I think it's kind of cool that the education's shifting down, right? The vendors are now starting to push education to the MSPs. And if the MSPs can push that out to their customer base and prospects, whichever, just do education. You know me, it's all about education. That's pretty powerful because, like I said, you're not going to see end users, those end users leave you because they're gonna be like, whoa, well, I can't live without Eric. He showed me how to take my business from 2x to 4x.
Yeah, and a couple of things. Keith has made some good points here. He does webinars on workflows, lean manufacturing, things that matter to his clients.
Right.
It's not about IT, but he can certainly help them use technology to improve those workflows, improve those processes. And then I think this is key too. He's writing the integration pieces that put the technologies together and make the technologies talk to each other. And he's exactly right in this comment. It makes you sticky.
That's right.
And that's extremely important. And you can find different ways to do that in whatever market you serve. Keith does a lot with logistics and manufacturing. If you're in legal, maybe you're about, document scanning or, whatever it is. Find out what's important to your customers and talk about that. And yes, and he gives out fine cigars. We don't want to forget that part. He is very good at that. I'm just saying.
He is. I must admit, there's always a fine cigar when Keith Nelson's around.
Yes.
But he still owes me a drink. You're going to see that down below. He's going to start going crazy.
Well,
I wouldn't let him buy me a drink, and he still says he owes me one.
Yeah, well, I think I owe Carl Palachuk a few too. So, but what comes around goes around. We all buy each other drinks at one point or another.
This is absolutely true, 100%. So and we talked about the selling piece of this just a little bit, but just circling back a little bit to that, that's another piece that I think we need to throw that whole sales process out the window. Now, people get all angry when I say that and crazy and this whole thing. I'm not saying that we can't use the sales tactics to get someone to help someone get out of their own way, right? A little reversal here and there, a little psychology here and there, right? But if you're helping them, if you're doing that for a positive reason and not to sell them a used car, which is what what everybody thinks of the MSP industry from years ago, because we were always trying to sell a tool, as opposed to we're always looking at selling a product instead of the solution, and that's all shifting. And I think from a sales perspective, again, you build the community. Your sales engine is your community. And those relationships are going to be what's important. Now your salespeople can stop selling and just educate and build relationships with these people that your community folks have already built, and their lives get easier, because now it's not, hey, I got to sell them something because it's Friday at the end of the month and I haven't got enough licenses. It's, hey, you told me last month about this new security thing that's happening, and I need to know more about that, because you're just completely informing them all the time and educating them instead of trying to sell them.
Yeah, I see it all the time, right? I'm out there, I'm doing community stuff, and all of a sudden I get 3 or 4 inbounds a week, simply because they saw me mention something somewhere. It happened today about a Reddit post. So we have Aaron Garcia here. He says, "Hey, Ken."
Hey, Aaron. Good dude. I worked with Aaron at PAX 8 and just started talking to him a little bit at Taylor. So good to hear from you, Aaron.
Yeah. So if you're here, comment, because, you have questions. We might have answers. If we don't have the answers, we know who to send it to you.
Yeah, we'll just call Keith Nelson.
We have plenty of people that we can call to get the right answers.
And that's the beauty of it.
And Chuck is here. Hey, Chuck.
Is that my guy, Chuck?
It's Chuck Simzak.
Oh, yeah, that's my guy. I'm sorry about our Boston teams right now, but I miss you, buddy.
I think we all miss each other. Where are you going to be? What traveling roadshow event are you going to be at next?
I am going to be definitely going to be at ChannelCon in Vegas for CompTIA event.
Okay.
And there's a couple that I can't say yet because they're in the works. We're not sure if there's going to be a last minute appearance at a couple of other events. I'm obviously going to be at Exchange. I typically, try to get to those, and Taylor will be doing those, channel companies events and Next Gen at the end of the year. We'll be at MSP Community Minds. That's the MSP Initiative's new event that's coming out. And that is going to be really cool because that's more based on what we were talking about, education that you're going to walk away with something tangible in your hands kind of stuff. And separate from that, like I said, there's some things in the middle that I might do. And you heard my Denver pop-up. I might do a pop-up in another city that's got a good amount of folks in that we can just kind of pop in and say hello and get those great conversations going.
Awesome. Well, I will for sure. I know that I'm going to be at ChannelCon because I have a keynote.
Yeah.
Well, and it's actually where I'm going to be. I don't really want to make an announcement on this show, do I?
That's okay. TBD.
I'm going to be presenting something new, something really cool, something that I've talked about a little bit before. But now it's going to be ready for prime time. So, very excited about ChannelCon this year. So, stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. It's not in my favorite place in the world because I'm a community guy, and no one really does community in Vegas. Everybody just goes. Phoom.
Well, especially in August.
Yeah. There's going to be people probably not even at the event.
I mean,
just because it's Vegas, but.
Well, I remember, I think the last time it was in Vegas was right before the pandemic. And I remember the soles of people's feet, of their shoes getting soft because the sidewalk was so hot.
I don't think it was that one, but I remember George Bardisi had a pair of those like Doc Martin boots and the bottoms melted completely. I think it might have been an Arizona event, but it might have been a Vegas event.
And by the way, Keith is offering dinner at a great steak joint. So
Oh,
Keith coming in there clutch.
yep. He's still trying to make up for the pizza in California. He knows what I'm talking about. He'll tell you. He'll tell you it was the most expensive pizza he'd ever seen.
That does sometimes happen at these events because, well, it's
Yeah.
because of the cities that we're in, right?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you, Eric. It wasn't about the pizza. It was about the 12, 12. What was the drink? Oh, 12 old fashions. And I thought, well, there was 15 of us. That's okay. 12 old fashions doesn't seem crazy. One guy drank 12 old fashions in an hour. Yeah. So it was an interesting. I looked at the bill and I'm like, wow, 12 old fashions, pizza, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wow, this is more expensive than usual, but who cares? There's a good amount of people here. It was one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Needless to say, even though he was 6'5" and a pretty huge guy, he was being carried back to the hotel.
Yeah. Well, we've all had those experiences, right? Where we had to.
Maybe.
Well,
I mean, I don't know that I would
that
do
we
that many in an
individually.
hour. Oh yeah,
Right.
surroundings.
But
Yes,
that
gotcha.
we have had to assist someone.
Assist. Yes. Yes. That we could do a whole other show about the experiences at events that we've seen that were just separate from technology.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, what happens at an event stays at an event.
Well, we don't give names, but the stories
That's
we
true.
gotta
That's
tell the
true.
stories. The stories are great.
Well, because sometimes they're warning stories.
Yes, yes, that's actually a good point.
Well, I mean, honestly, when I'm talking to the younger generation, right, I have to include those things because I've seen people lose their jobs. I've seen
Oh yeah.
people lose big deals, big customers, because of behavior like that.
Yep.
And you have to be careful and just be cognizant of your surroundings and what you're doing and who's around because it's a work event.
It actually is, isn't it?
And yes, Keith, I do mean you, the younger generation.
Oh, hey, ho, hey. No, seriously, Keith, can you tell us what it was like before electricity?
Oh, shots fired.
He's going to come back. Watch. He's going to have a good answer.
We can definitely tell when we're getting towards, the other side of the show, right?
Well, you start letting them creep in, we're going to we go back and forth, right?
Well, and I think I actually may rename this at some point to All Things MSP After Dark.
There you go.
So
it is. Well, it's almost dark here.
Well, I actually have the shades drawn. That sounds
Nice.
so. No, I have the blinds closed.
It looks dark there. It does.
So that I can control, the lighting and do the fancy colors and, because I'm into that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, me on the other hand, I look like I'm on the sun. So my lighting is kind of horrible. And
Keith says it was easier to decorate a cave.
See, I told you he'd have something.
Yeah, I wonder how you did live streams back then.
I love those little drawings you did in the caves, though. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, those were helpful.
Yep. He is too much.
Oh, all right. So, anything else?
Oh, man. Well, like I said, this is about the MSPs, right? We want the MSPs to get the most bang out of all of this. And remember, someone smarter than me once said to me, you want to know why the smaller MSPs and vendors are not focusing on the human element? It's because, the piece where you're being human and adding value and creating community and doing things just to help and not expect things in return, because it's unproven. Because there's no comparison to it yet. We haven't had enough paths to that success just yet. And so I think that, people looked at the whole, hey, look at Facebook and look at, the ads you can do on Facebook. Even those have diminished over the years because there's no human piece to that. And now they charge way more because they have less of them. It's the human aspect of things that's working, and that's the direction we're pushing in. And I'm telling you right now, if you make it about your community, the community that you serve, give back to your local community, do a lot of the community charity type things, and do all the things you can to be helpful in that community as well. And also, the vendors deserve a little help. It's a two-way street. Make sure that you're working with your vendors and letting them understand what it is that's working and what it is that's not working, and make that two-way street just a little bit better, because part of why the vendors are the way they are is because it's always been this battle with a lot of the MSPs. And when you make that right, sit on their back, help them be better. Then if they're not helping out, then you can make some changes and things like that. But make sure you're offering to make your vendors better too. It just helps everything in our ecosystem better when
Yeah.
we do that.
So actually, that reminded me of something, and you're a perfect person to bounce this off of.
Well, because I'm fat. All right, I get it.
That's not what I meant, and you know it. I I think I'm seeing some research come out, and I think I'm seeing some other things that indicate that there might be another shift in the role of an MSP away from outsourced IT. I don't think it's prevalent yet, but I think I see the beginnings of it. Okay. And seeing certain MSPs go back to more of a consulting role, more of a just VCIO type role, than trying to provide the entire outsourced IT system for a client. Thoughts?
I think it's somewhere we have to be. I think all MSPs have to learn how to be more consultative. And I think it was Don Sizer we talked a little bit about before this. Don Sizer was the one that made this even sound smarter, as she always does.
Of course.
Um, Instead of virtual CIO, we should be talking about fractional CIO. It makes more sense to the role. Virtual means it's not real. It's just somewhere out there, and you may be getting this type of thing. I love the way that she explained it. She'll do it 1,000 times better than me. Anybody who wants to know about that, definitely reach out to Dawn. Um, but I think it's something we need to do more of. I think we have to become more consultative. And you've heard me say before, we need to be more prescriptive. We as an industry, MSPs, and I'm guilty of it back in the day, we sold to everybody because we thought we had to, and we let them pick us apart and tell us, well, I don't need the antivirus, but I do need the backup, and I need this piece. And it's like, famous Matt Lee. It's like when I go to the doctor, I don't. When he holds out the pills and tells me, "Hey, you're overweight, you have diabetes, you have high blood pressure," I don't go, I just want the white pill. It doesn't work that way. And I think for us, if we become more consultative, and the end users understand what we do better, that we're here talking about solutions, we're not talking about products, right? The doctor doesn't talk to us about all the medical products that now they do it with commercials, but they never did when we were younger, right? The doctors don't do that. They just say, we know what your problem is, we diagnose you, and here's your solution. And we
Yep.
respect that, and we take it and we do it. If we become more consultative and become the fractional CIOs, whatever level of that is, they're going to respect us more, and we bring more value. And then, of course, add in the separate part of that of just being their business partner and helping them grow their business and show them best practices just for a business as you learn them, teach them to them as well. You get that stickiness that Keith was talking about. So I think you're right. The shift is happening, but I think it has to happen across the board. I think everybody needs to learn that, because at some point there's going to be that shift, and it's going to shift hard. And if you're not being consultative, you won't get left totally behind, because we always say that to people, break fix, it's going away. No, it's not. Everyone's going to need their computer fixed. And if you want to stay break fix, that's your business. It's not as profitable, but obviously there's more of it for you because not everybody's doing it too. So there's a shift there. I always hate when people do that too. Oh, you're going to be left behind. Which you can use the wording better. There are different ways to do it to be more profitable and more efficient. But if you want to do it this way, there's still going to be a place for it. And same with the MSP space. If everybody makes that shift and becomes more consultative, you're going to get the higher value partners doing that. And there's still going to be people that want the MSP and still going to use it that way.
Yeah.
and consume it that way. So I just think that you're right. The majority is going to shift to that, and the higher value ones, the ones that value what we do as much as we value what they do, and that's thus the relationship piece. Um, yeah, I do think it's going to shift in that direction, and the ones that assuming that they're going to move that way and don't do anything will be left behind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like the terminology, the fractional CIO.
Yeah,
And primarily, I'm going to be honest, in my opinion, there are too many VCIO titles out there that are they're salespeople. They are
don't get me
nothing more
started.
than salespeople. I know, but
You're right. It's also that goes back to what I said about these flashy titles and these big titles and people that come from other industries that don't even understand our industry stepping in, and and then we have almost everybody now is becoming calling themselves community, and it's not really community. You can't be sales and community. They're two totally separate things. So there's a lot of that going on. So yeah, and by the way, as we're like throwing all these things out there, as far as like companies that do and don't, there are a lot of vendors out there doing real good for the
mhm,
community and just throwing their stuff out there. The threat lockers, the huntresses of the world. These companies are just helping to help.
yeah,
And I know there's many more than that. I'm not, there's a lot of them out there that just say, hey, we want to help out, and here's a way. Even if you're not using us, here's a free solution to kind of help you get out of trouble with whatever it is you're dealing with.
yeah,
And that's another thing, another shift that I find refreshing, that we're seeing more and more of that too.
yeah. A prime example of that is Huntress and their neighborhood watch program.
Right.
Perfect example.
Yep. I love that. I love that. Actually, when Tracy was the first person to tell me about that, just in a passing conversation, it blew my mind. I thought that is really cool, and that's all about community.
Yep, it is.
Yep. Yep. So there's a lot of really good being done out there. It's just, I'd love to see it move faster. I'd love to see the vendors start to adopt the community piece a bit faster, because there are people that can do those things out there. And if you plug them in right and do the right things, you're right, it takes a little bit of time, but we both know it's successful. We've both seen it work. I can look back at my 4 years at PAX 8 and say, holy crap, when I started at PAX 8, this there wasn't this community. And 4 years later, there is a
Yeah.
huge community of these, like I say, stark raving fans. And I'm proud. That's a proud moment for me. I love what they're doing. I still think that they're awesome, and they're continuing to blow up and do really good things. And I'm hoping that I can do the same thing over at Taylor Business Group, and build up that community and tie the communities together. Like I said, make the ecosystem better. And that's the goal. The goal is to, at the end of the day, if I can look back at this and say, hey, there's a group of us that really pulled together and to raise these tides. And, look at all the ships we dragged along with us.
So, Ken, that would actually be a great conversation for you and I to have off camera. Um, because there needs to be a way to measure the effectiveness of community. Because otherwise, you're not going to get large companies to buy into it.
Right. I did start, funny you should say that. I did start building KPIs around community. It's a little bit more difficult because you can't tie it to certain numbers, but I do have some solid ways to track the success of certain events that are wrapped around community. 30, 60, 90, 120 days out of an event. And there's certain KPIs that you can measure across the board on that type of stuff. And I've been starting to piece that together a little bit at a time, just to show that this is something we could probably put out there and do. And I'd be more than happy to share that with you.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something that, we could actually maybe do a video on.
Sure.
That could be fun.
Sure. Love to see more people jump into the community seats and help the vendors out, because it's desperately needed.
Yeah. Well, I think it's you and I know because we've done it, right? We've had multiple seats and on multiple buses where we've built communities, and we know that it contributed greatly to the revenue and success of the business.
Right.
But there are so many people who are relatively new to this or come from other parts of the channel that haven't lived it, haven't seen it. right? And if
Yep.
we don't have KPIs to explain it and prove it, it's a hard sell to
Yep.
create that position, to create the community, the budget to put towards community and all of those things. So I think
Right.
that'd be a great thing for the vendor part of this community.
I agree.
As we wind down, because I always try and finish these before 8, so everybody can switch over to Marvin B's live stream on Wednesday nights. Because he's
That's a
got a
good
great show
segue.
too.
That's
He's got a
that's
great
like
show too.
got the creature double feature now. We got Eric
That's
and
right.
then Marvin. There you go.
I didn't realize it until about a month ago, and I'm like, wait, Marvin's on right after me. I should promote him on my show because there's plenty of room for more podcasts, more live streams, more
Yep.
education in general. I know you're a big proponent of education, and I don't know. Maybe I love to hear myself talk. I don't know if other people like it or not. Who knows? But guys, if you want to learn more about anything that we've talked about tonight, reach out to Ken, reach out to me. If we don't know the answer, we will put you in touch with somebody who does. That's what community is for.
Yep.
Ken, give me, because I usually like to, if you work for somebody, I like you to be able to plug them. So give me the elevator pitch on Taylor Business Group real quick before we close this thing out.
Absolutely. And again, I like elevator pitch over sales pitch because you know how I feel about the whole sales thing. There's nothing to sell. Well, first of all, part of my journey to Taylor Business Group was quite interesting. As you know, I had left PAX 8. We split amicably. I think I did a great job and got them to a certain point. It was really large, and I wanted to go back and build something again and help another vendor or industry specific company grow their community. And I had been through a lot. We both have chatted about this, been through a lot of companies and checked them all out. And what was special about Taylor Business Group was they were just sitting here in their little corner of the world helping MSPs quietly, helping MSPs. And what they do to help MSPs is one thing, everybody knows the word peer group, but what Taylor Business Group does is they do business improvement groups because it's a little bit more. They have a facilitator in the room and the businesses work together. We also have a tool that helps benchmark and monitor and gauge the growth, and they hold each other accountable on their finances. And basically some of the cool numbers around this are, and again, can't get into the actual numbers, but the companies that had signed up with Taylor Business Group and got to the end game and got acquired had higher margin, higher multiples, which is really the end game, right? That's the goal at the end, is to get your multiple to a certain place. But also we're ready for the next steps. We're ready to make that step. And it doesn't happen overnight. You have to be able to get to that point. So they're building businesses up and helping them become more financially efficient, but also because that was going so well, they also have a COO group. They also have CAM groups now. They just started helping with sales, so they'll help your teams understand the marketplace and sell. So they help MSPs get to that piece of it. And they have, and I know I'm missing, they have project manager group and service manager group. So there's groups that help every level of an MSP to get to that next stage. And the real cool part about it was I learned about Taylor from MSPs in the business that I knew, friends who went there and their business just skyrocketed. And the one thing they said was, we need a community. We need to get it out there. And I agree so much. So I think that Taylor Business Group is the best kept secret in the business. They have the best education. They have some of the best coaches, and they're reasonably priced, which is something that a lot of people don't think about, but their return on investment is very high. And again, no sales pitch. If someone wanted to talk to me about how coaching and how groups could help their business, you can reach out. Eric knows I'm not a sales guy. I'm not going to chat with you or try to sell you. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. I can show you the ways that it works compared to the things that the problems that you're having, and move from there. You can reach me at ken@taylorbusinessgroup.com. And you can check out the website, taylorbusinessgroup.com, for anything you want to learn about the company. We are growing fast, and we're getting into the community and diving in and trying to help and make things even better by doing educational stuff. And that's what I love about these guys. Here I am on Eric's show talking about all these different things, subjects, and then Eric throws me a couple minutes at the end and I talk a bit about Taylor, but Taylor understands it's about the bigger picture and they want to make everybody better.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we do these, right? We do this to share resources so that everybody knows what's out there. Ken, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. If there's anything else that we can do for Taylor Business Group, please let me know. And guys, reach out to Ken. He's a great resource in this industry. And, if you have questions, get them answered. There's no reason to sit on your hands and not get questions answered, because there was somebody in this industry who will answer those questions.
100%. Right? As the famous Arnold Schwarzenegger once said, you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pocket.
Very, very true. All right, Ken. Well, I will let you go while I wrap these things up. Actually, if you want to stay on in the green room, I'll come chat with you in just a minute.
I'm going to walk over to the green room. I'll see you.
Okay, sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think this was a great episode. Hopefully you did too. Leave us a comment, leave us a like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead, click that like button, click the subscribe, click the bell. Because if you didn't know, the bell notifies you when we post these or when we schedule the live streams, actually, more importantly. Come to Facebook. That's where we have the deeper conversations. That's where the community really comes together and answers each other's questions. Today, there was somebody trying to find somebody in San Diego to, help them out with a remote issue. This is what we like to do. We like to bring this community together, get your questions answered, help out as much as we can. And speaking of, just really quickly, because as Ken was talking about some of those things tonight, and we were talking about how do you share your expertise with your clients in a way that's not salesy. Well, back when we had the pandemic, there was all the, remote doing this, how to use Teams, how to do that. Ken mentioned some of those things. But what about right now? What about AI? So with AI, we actually have an opportunity to teach our customers, our clients, as well as prospects about how to use AI efficiently in our business. Has nothing to do with the technology that you're providing them right now, but it probably will have something to do with the way their workflows interact in maybe even as short as another 3 to 6 months. So that's something that you can share with them. You can share it in a video. You can share it in a blog post. Get that content created. Share it in the places where your community hangs out. All right. With that, I'm out of here. Thank you guys very much for joining me tonight. Thank you very much to Ken and Taylor Business Group for contributing content for the show tonight. And we will see you in the next one. Have a great evening.